the great Frédéric.
And happy Natty.
And Ashton.
You're not supposed to be on the camera.
And Ashton in the back.
Who doesn't want to be on the
Who doesn't want to be here? And in the French Alps, that's not true even. We're in the Massif Central. We're talking about being aware. But we're going to call it balance. No, that wasn't even it. So let's
let's put 5 titles like this.
Let's put it differently. So the podcast that goes with this video was originally going to be themed something like getting to know yourself, or getting to know yourself, or not balancing yourself.
You were speaking about being mindful.
Yes, so the podcast that goes with this video was originally themed getting to know yourself, one, or being mindful. But there's already 2 points of thought.
So the getting to know yourself, we will have to define yourself.
Ooh.
And that's gonna take a very long time.
Yeah.
And we will probably not end up even on a full definition of it.
Yes. So in the small time that we have here on Earth, getting to know yourself. No, so the definition of yourself would be a bit too much. And being mindful.
If only there is a self.
If only there is a self as well. I mean, so we still want a theme for the podcast.
So let's look at the reality the way it is.
Exactly. So being mindful or getting to know yourself can both be put into seeing reality.
The way it is.
This is correct. So the theme is seeing reality. Seeing yourself
the way it is.
The way you are. Or the way it is. That's already special as well. Why did I want to talk to Frédéric for one of my podcasts?
We wonder. We really wonder.
You really wonder too. Because lately, in the last couple of years, I feel like I've been more mindful there is snow, or more, or seeing reality more. And I think that's also, is that necessarily the same as living in the present and accepting it for what now is? Is that also seeing reality?
Yeah.
Is that kind of a good...
Well, the only moment you can see reality is now.
That is true.
Everything that you perceive from your past and the future is a creation in your mind. It's not what reality is.
This is very true. We need to stop because Frédéric needs to lie down in the snow. So if people have never thought about becoming more aware, or think about if people actually never have considered, I want to really, I want to really see reality more. Mm-hmm. How can they start? Where should they start?
That's a very interesting question. There's many ways to do that. There will be the philosophical way. Mm-hmm. There will be the spiritual way. On an analytical level, one way could be to question every ideas, every thoughts that we have, every judgment that we make, every belief that we have. You can think about it in a way that you really look at it logically and try to find out if it's really true what you're saying. One of the most famous philosophers that was doing that in the ancient Greece was Socrates. Uh-huh. And what he was doing was going in the street, speaking with people, and challenging them on their belief and way of looking at the world.
Okay.
So that was interesting that you say to have a different perspective,
Yeah.
because that's one way to look at reality first differently and maybe come closer to see reality the way it is. Because we have certain perceptions, certain ideas about how things are, but sometimes if we look at them from a different perspective, we see that they are different than what we were thinking. Let's take an example now. If you look at my hand and you see this side of the hand, and you don't take your perspective to look at this side, you don't know that the hand is both this side and this side. What you think is like just seeing this part of the reality. So what you can do is challenge your belief.
So, but when you say, so imagine people have never heard of this, like challenging your beliefs. What beliefs should they start with? Like, how do they then know that they have a certain belief?
Well, everything that you say can be challenged.
Okay.
So when you say one sentence, if you say, for example, people don't know if they have a certain belief or what type of belief they have, just the fact of looking at that, you can think, okay, now that I'm looking at my mind and I'm thinking, do I have belief about something? Just this question can be challenged already. I am turning around because I'm not sure.
We're doing 2 roundabouts.
So just thinking, for example, you say, do you have belief? And you think, okay, I don't have any belief, or I don't see any belief.
Yeah.
Just for you, for example, to be able to speak, there is in your subconscious a belief that you can speak. To stand, to walk, to see things, you need to have a certain belief about it. So the one thing is, what I was saying was challenging your belief.
Yeah.
Because everything we think about reality is and can be seen differently.
Yeah.
Let's take another example. If you think about a tree, you have already an image inside your mind about what a tree is, just the fact of using the word.
Yeah.
So when I say tree, you don't see the reality of the tree, you see it through your perception that already knows what a tree is.
Yeah.
If I'm now telling you, consider that a tree cannot exist without water, then you begin to see the tree a little bit differently. If you imagine that a tree cannot exist without the sun, without the soil that is giving it nutrients, you don't see anymore just the image of the tree, but you see the tree being part and being filled with the water, with the sun element, with the earth element. So just with a simple thing like this, you can already like see that you could see reality in a different way by taking the different perspective, all the elements that are part of one specific subject, like a tree.
Yeah.
On a more concrete level for oneself, looking at reality the way it is would be, for example, looking at your sensations. So right now, if you don't put your awareness, you were saying about being mindful or being aware.
Yeah.
If you don't put your awareness, for example, on your right feet, before,
which I'm doing now. Yeah.
Now you do, but before thinking about putting your awareness there, you're not aware of this specific sensation that is happening in your body right now.
Even though it's happening, I'm not aware of it.
Exactly.
But it's just happening anyways.
It is happening anyway.
Yeah.
But to be able to see reality, one way is to put the attention on reality.
Yes.
But if you don't do it, that's why we call this mindfulness or awareness or putting your attention, is to be able to see something that usually was not seen. So a sensation is easy to think of and to put your attention on, so you will see it as it is. Okay, right now I see that there is a sensation of my feet. You can put your awareness on all the sensation. If I'm not telling you, put your awareness into what you are seeing right now. Although you are seeing things, you are not aware of the seeing what you are looking at. You just see.
You just see, and you're not consciously seeing.
Exactly.
Like you're not putting an effort into what you're seeing.
Yeah.
Okay, so
that's still very.
Yeah, no, and I understand. So being more mindful or more aware of seeing something in a more realistic way is trying to see it from a different point of view, but more consciously, or starting to question what you actually see?
Well, now we went on the second way of doing it. There is the first part which we were speaking about, the philosophical way.
Yeah.
So you question something that you are thinking as a belief.
Okay.
Or whatever statement you can do. You can say, okay, the earth is flat,
Yeah.
or the earth is round. And then you challenge and you say, how can I really be sure that this is the truth? Is there a certain situation where the earth is more flat or the earth is more round? So you look at the different situation, different moments in your life. Or for example, if you say, I'm someone happy, is it something that defines you all the time? Is it part of you all the time? Or is it just a moment thing? If it's just a moment thing, you cannot say, I am happy, because it's not you as a being, it's your state.
Yes.
So looking at one sentence that can look simple as I'm happy is a fake statement if you look at it deeply. Because you cannot say I am something when something is changing all the time and cannot be found inside you.
Yeah.
So this simple question is questionable. You can see it in a different way. It's like, okay, I feel happy, could be closer to the truth. So that's the philosophical way. You look at words and how they are.
Yeah.
The second way is with the awareness, which is what we begin to do with looking at the sensation and looking at what you are experiencing. So before putting your awareness and your attention into what is happening for you through your 5 senses or 6 senses, if you consider the mind, most of the time we are not aware of the things that are entering our 6 senses if we don't put our attention into it. Does it make sense?
No, it does make sense.
Okay, so where is this leading? To look at reality the way it is, you put your awareness into what you are experiencing. So for example, if you have a sensation, you can qualify it when you don't look at the reality the way it is, as it is painful, it is like pleasant or unpleasant, I like it, I don't like it. All these are perceptions, but they are not the reality of the sensation. They are a perception of the mind that attach or wants or doesn't want the sensation. So when you feel a pleasant sensation or heat or cold, you can define it as I like it or I don't like it. From the moment you put this liking and disliking, you are not seeing the reality the way it is. You are seeing your perception. Like for example, we were outside before. I like the feeling of cold, but you can be disturbed by the cold and not liking it. So the reality of the cold is not the way you perceive or the way I perceive it, good or bad. It's just cold.
Right, that's a very good example, yeah.
So that's where looking at reality the way it is looking at things the way they are without putting any judgment, perception, ideas about it.
Without giving it a subjective value.
Exactly.
Okay, so, and why would this be, as in if I'm playing devil's advocate, why would this be beneficial to the quality of life?
Oh, that's we go to the essence of the story. If you are constantly reacting in the sense of when something is happening, you like it, you don't like it, you want it, you don't want it, you are always depending on something on the outside influencing your inner state.
Yes, true, yeah, because you always think that something that you don't have or that is not there can change your state. Okay.
So when you look at reality the way it is, there is more what we call equanimity or more acceptance. When you were speaking about accepting, you just see, okay, there is cold, but the real suffering that we have, it's the mental suffering as I don't like cold, I don't want cold, so I'm suffering because I don't want to be cold right now. It's not just the physical cold that is making us suffer, it's the mental attraction or repulsion to I don't like that and I don't want that. That makes us suffer.
This is true. However, with cold, it can put you in a, like, you can become undercooled, like you can become frozen.
It could be dangerous.
Yeah, potentially. You know what I mean? So,
yes.
Yeah.
But looking at reality the way it is doesn't mean you're not doing anything about it.
Okay, yeah.
You can still... You're not staying outside saying it's just cold and I'm staying here.
To prove a point.
You know that it's cold.
Yeah.
You're not suffering mentally thinking I don't like that.
Oh,
if you have to be outside for whatever time, you just accept it.
Yeah, okay.
Then you change, you go out or in and you get warm.
But, and actually, because I said before, so when you have an emotion or when you want something, so you change your state of mind because you don't have it right now, it might then make you happier or something. But sometimes you are in a state of mind when you're really happy. Does this then also mean that you are not seeing reality because you're now happy and you think happy is a good feeling?
Well, there we go to the philosophical part to make it more logical. What do you mean when you say I'm feeling really happy? What is it for you being really happy? After,
for example, if you say you're like you're in a, hang on, what were we saying before? And I said, yeah, so you can change your state of mind so that you have something you don't have right now. So change of, well, let's, for argument's sake, say I'm only happy when I have done my, so happy, for argument's sake, where I feel now that it's already changed, but
someone could think
a year ago, or someone could think, no, we can use me as an example, but like I thought I was only really happy if I did an hour of exhausting sport in the morning.
Yeah.
Because then I felt happy. So obviously I feel the dopamines or whatever, and that gives you this pleasure. But then I think that if I don't have this, then I'm not happy. And I kind of thought that I still accepted the fact that I know myself, or I'm mindful of the fact that if it's not here, I'm not happy, and that I kind of needed to be happy. So then I think I am mindful because I recognize the feelings or the needs. So when I then am happy, I think, oh, I've done something good because now I'm happy, and I also recognize that I know myself because now I'm happy and I've done this and I've achieved this. So then my question is, if you are in a happy state of mind, do you still need to detach, or do you still need to see reality, because you might not necessarily be happy, if that makes sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I understand totally what you say. When we attach to the pleasure or happiness, it's the same danger as when we don't feel good, because we want something which is something that we will always look outside to find. Like the example that you take is like, if I worked out, then I was feeling happy. So just the word happy is the same example as the tree. Is what do we put behind the word being happy? Do you mean I have a pleasant sensation in my body? My body feel light? And you put the meaning of feeling light equals being happy.
Probably, that makes a lot of sense to me.
So that's one way already to try to understand what we really feel when we say we feel happy. What does it mean? And when we say we feel really happy or truly happy, what is it really behind that? Someone, for example, who have achieved, you speak about achieve work, and you do some work, well, it's nourishing your value of being productive, doing something meaningful. So that fulfills some satisfaction in you, some fulfillment of having done something. But is that true happiness? That's where it gets tricky. There's several levels to look at being happy.
Okay, so the first step to checking what your happiness is,
or what the reality on this
what
moment.
the reality is, you can be, okay, define what this feeling of happy is, what happy for you actually is.
What does it mean? That's
yeah.
why I started like this with you. It's like, what does it mean for you?
Okay.
And then you slowly go deeper to, well, the reality of when I'm saying that I'm happy after working out is not that I'm happy, is that my body is feeling lighter.
Exactly, yeah.
I feel satisfied with myself because I've done something that I know is important for me to do. So it gives me satisfaction and a pleasurable feeling.
And I might have achieved like a new workout, or I've done an exercise really well, or I've gone further than I've gone before.
Yeah. So
there's heavier.
There's two parts in it. There's a physical sensation that is pleasing.
Yeah.
And there's a mental understanding of the mental values that are fulfilled by what you have done. I feel satisfied about myself. I feel that I've done something great. When we say I feel, it's not the feeling, it's I have the impression of having done something good, so that fulfills me. But this part is still related with something outside. What happens if you're not feeling a pleasant sensation in your body? Do you still feel happy? What happens if you're not fulfilling the fact of working out and doing something great? Do you still feel happy?
So that's very difficult, because in the beginning I didn't. So is this then a sign that if I don't have it, I'm not happy? My definition of happy? So then it starts looking like I can only be happy, my definition of happy again, when I do this. So I am now attached, or my happiness is now attached to an external factor.
Exactly.
If I never do this again, I can, in my definition, never be happy again.
Yep.
So then how does this tie in with seeing reality?
Very good. So, everything in reality, to give you like a hint, is changing all the time. So everything that you do, for example, you eat a good meal, okay, it will fulfill you. It can give you the impression of being happy after having a good meal or a good moment with your friend or a workout, but it's gonna change. This feeling of happiness, if we put it connected with something like something that we do, is gonna change. So when you look at reality, you see that reality is impermanent, is constantly changing. Because it's constantly changing, it creates unhappiness, or at least it creates unsatisfaction every moment. Because even if you do have a pleasurable sensation, this pleasurable sensation, you know that it's gonna change. You know that it's gonna stop. And you know that you will need to search for something else for this sensation to come again. So there's a stress in the pleasure, in the notion that we have of happiness.
Okay. So then the next question is, do you either always search for this, which I think is a bit exhausting for this feeling?
Yes.
Do we accept it so that when it's not there, you just don't feel happy? Or do we go and search for it somewhere else? Or do we have to then define our happiness differently?
Yes. The two last points are interesting. Accepting the reality, when you've seen the reality the way it is, meaning nothing can satisfy me fully, because everything is constantly changing. So it's never gonna give me a lasting happiness, if we put the word happiness on it. So the first part is like, I know that the outside world cannot fulfill me all the time and cannot give me a constant feeling of being happy, of being peaceful, or whatever you define it.
And it's okay to accept, to feel like the outside world cannot always satisfy you?
Can never satisfy you.
Okay, can never satisfy you because you can't be attached to the outside happiness.
Well, you can be attached, and that's the problem. People want things to be permanent. You want to have this constant feeling of lightness in your body, of being fulfilled by what you're doing, of the pleasurable sensation with the food. But because the reality of it is that it's never gonna last.
Yeah, that's true.
It's never gonna fulfill you completely because it contains at the same time as the pleasure, because we will not put happiness if we look at reality, there is a pleasurable sensation, but it contains with it the fact that it's gonna stop.
Yeah.
So it's the same problem that people have with death, with being sick, with people around them changing, a couple, and they separate, there is suffering because it's not lasting. Someone is dying around you, so you suffer. Because you expect the reality to be different than what it is. You want it to be permanent. You want the sensation that you have to be permanent. But because the reality is not like this, because it's gonna change, it gives you stress to try to always make something impermanent permanent.
Yes.
So the first part, that if you really accept, in the sense that you have understood the reality and see clearly that there is always change in reality, and that because there is always change, it creates suffering, you will stop searching for an happiness that is depending on something that is impermanent. Therefore, you will feel at peace because you know that this cannot give you any type of happiness, lasting pleasure, lasting sensation of peace.
Well, but sorry to cut in there, but I feel like in the two steps of accepting that there is change, and then so accepting that there is change, and therefore, what did you say? And therefore, feeling peace in the fact that when you accept there is change,
change and suffering,
when you accept it, then you don't go and search for it anymore in the outside, and then there is peace.
Yeah.
So in between there is a step, I think, which is when you accept that things aren't, or things are ever changing, and that you can't always find happiness in the external world, then it sounds a bit like now you're depressed because you can't find happiness somewhere. So how can you then, from accepting that you can't always be happy or always have a good feeling,
never
never have a good feeling?
No, you can have good feeling, but again, good feeling is your perception. You can always have a pleasurable feeling.
Exactly, but so it's very hard to accept the fact that there is things that are not external that will give us peace.
Now we are going to the third step.
Okay, because
in this second step, what you're speaking of is the notion of acceptance. We put it lightly, like when we accept that the reality is this way and that things are changing and that there is suffering, we just feel at peace. So the acceptance is one of the subjects that is the most difficult to understand. Yeah. Because we speak about it, we feel intuitively that when we accept something, we don't suffer anymore. And you have a feeling that yes, but if I accept that the reality cannot satisfy me, I will be depressed or I will not feel good.
Yeah, because exactly. If the reality cannot satisfy me, I will be depressed because I've never experienced a reality where I wasn't happy because of external factors. Yes, exactly, that's it. Yeah.
So it means that you have not seen the reality the way it is, because you're still not seeing that there is suffering in this reality. What you are seeing is only the good side, and it's all this positive thought thinking, which in some ways is a good thing because it allows you to have the perspective on life. You choose to have a positive perspective on life, which in some way it's good.
Yeah, in some
but
way.
It also puts you into an illusion, it means that you're not seeing the side of the reality that is also creating suffering inside yourself. Why are you so agitated? If today, as we spoke before, everything stops, meaning you cannot do a job that satisfies you. You cannot have pleasant feeling in your body because of sport or whatever, food or other things. Then, as you say, then you will feel depressed. Because you don't have anything else on which to grasp on, to feel good. Because you have always been used to a reality that is nourishing this feeling, pleasant sensation, feeling happy, feeling fulfilled with life.
Exactly.
But the thing is that you have the constant stress inside yourself and the constant need to search for more all the time. Whatever you have done all your life to fulfill you, right now if it stops fulfilling you. So it means you didn't find something lasting. So if you look at reality the way it is, you know that deeper inside of you, there is something that is unsatisfied, that is unsettled, and that needs this outside world to fulfill you. And that's why people are in this world of consumerism. It's because they always need something new to feel good. Some people watch TV, others use food, others use alcohol and drugs, others buy stuff all the time, others will go to party, others will have sex. All the things that we are doing, and we will constantly do this all our life, this is a constant stress in the mind to search for something on the outside, a constant stress in the body because you need to be agitated and do something, and most of the things that you do are not good for your body, they are harmful, most of it. So we are creating this stress, creating this suffering by looking on the outside to something that will never satisfy us on a full level, on a constant level. So that's where, at the same time that there is the pleasant sensation, that there's pleasure and joy, probably not happiness, but at least some joy and some pleasure. At the same time, there is the stress and the suffering that we know this is gonna stop. Whatever you're doing, it's gonna stop.
It's gonna stop.
And I will have to search for something else again and again and again. So when you see that clearly, the acceptance comes in the sense that, okay, at least I don't have to look from the outside all the time because I know it's not going to satisfy me forever. That's why most of the people who are closer to happiness are people that we call wise, or even simply in some poor country that they are not expecting anything, and you've been traveling, you've seen that. The more simply people live, the more happy they feel and peaceful they feel. Because they don't need anything, they don't expect anything from the outside, they just accept what is. They are not looking for some stimulation on the outside. Well, life is like this, nothing to do, I just sit and watch my sheep on the garden. That will not fulfill most of the people.
Because they're not looking for stimulation. That's really, that's a really good way of saying, if you sometimes don't feel happy, you always go and look for stimulation elsewhere. Whereas you could accept if you want to and if you're ready for it.
Well, if you did the work. That's where the notions comes into perspective, is if you do the work, meaning the theme of this podcast or video, which is looking at reality the way it is. If you really look at reality the way it is, naturally the mind will stop looking for anything, will accept the reality the way it is, and will feel at peace with it. Because it has seen clearly, it has accepted it clearly, and so it's not searching for anything anymore because there's nothing to search for, and it's only gonna create stress and suffering. The second part of it is that there is let's say a reward. All the spiritual tradition speaks about heaven, speaks about nirvana, speaks about those kind of words, the ultimate, being one with everything, whatever way you look at it. And that's where it's interesting, because when you look at reality the way it is, and you begin to see deeper and deeper into reality, you begin to see a reality that the eyes cannot see. Only the inner eye can see that. And what you see is something that is permanent, that is completely satisfying all the time because it's not changing. But these things cannot be found on the outside. That's why all the spiritual tradition tells you, look inside yourself, you will find something that is stable, that is fulfilling, that is full of whatever love, and some people call the divine. If you search and find the divine in you, that's why all those monks and nuns, they feel at peace and they feel bliss. We even use words that are so higher than happiness, because they have touched something inside themselves that is constantly stable, that will never change, and that is always present in them, whatever the outside circumstances. They can be sick, they can be tortured, people around them can die. This will never change. It's inside yourself, it's stable, nothing can change it. The work is to go touch this. When you've touched it, you know there's a reality there, you know there is something that is 1,000,000 times more fulfilling than anything else you can search in life, and you know that it will always be there inside of you, and that you're invincible because the outside world cannot touch that. Then you find the real inner peace.
Wow, so it is really all pointing towards finding your own, let's call it bliss.
Well, yeah, okay. It's really good.
By not being, by not searching for your bliss in external factors, by finding it in yourself, and even trying, and even potentially always being just happy and blissful in even any given moment.
Yeah, that's what.
And the start is by seeing reality.
Yes, that's a very good summary.
Okay.
That's a very good summary. Because when you see the reality the way it is, and you know that it's not gonna satisfy you, it's gonna give you a true, deep desire, which is a good desire, one of the only one, to search for something else. That's why most people are wise when they are old, because they know,
because they've searched.
They have searched all their life,
lives,
and they know that it's never gonna satisfy them.
Okay.
So okay. That's what it is.
Well, and I guess this is probably where we can end the theme of the podcast or the video. So well, we had a little summary that was approved by Frédéric. The little summary I gave. So we gave some tips, or actually Frédéric gave some tips on how to be more, or how to see reality more. And I think that's a first step into just, into what? A first step into
finding your bliss.
Finding your bliss.
Being liberated.
Being liberated. I like that. Yeah, because I wanted to say into knowing yourself, but then we can start again. So
yeah, it's not to give a little small precision that we just speak of. It's not about finding something. Yeah. It's about letting go of everything.
It's about being rather than on the
not being.
Search. Yeah. Okay. Not being.
But yes.
But not being
on a relative level. That's what it is.
Not always somewhere else, but just here and now.
Yeah, always inside.
Yeah, always inside. Woo! We got there. This is amazing. Okay, well, thank you very much. And now on to a safe road home.